The journey to the Gulf. The Dreamlands Express thundered forward, gliding across a plain drenched in the hues of twilight. From the soft slopes outside Afarat, the train began its passage toward the colossal grey spires of Thalarion. As it picked up speed, strange sights flickered past the windows, wild horses galloping in the distance, pursued by silent purple wolves. Above, birds with human hands beat their wings against skies that shimmered with impossible colors. It was a place stitched from myth and madness. In the dining car, the investigators were attempting, unsuccessfully, to carry on a normal dinner. Father Giovanni, animated as ever, waved a piece of spicy wasabi cracker in the air as he preached.
Jesus Christ, for the journey that he took, resurrected by divine will. That same miracle, the celebration of Easter, is but one sign among many that the impossible is possible. Even in a place such as this, God granted him life again. Surely other gods may do the same.
Across the table, Claudia, swirling her glass of red wine, let out a theatrical sigh.
Oh, do shut up, Giovanni.
The exchange earned a half laugh from Rose, who nibbled cautiously at the strange crackers served by Henri Peters.
What is this flavor?
Henri, hovering nearby, smiled cryptically.
Ah, a specialty from the plateau of Leng. Wasabi, with a touch of dream root. Most invigorating.
The train thundered into stranger lands, through landscapes cast in shades of violet and crimson, toward a monstrous skyline. The walls of Thalarion rose like a challenge to the sky itself, a city so vast its upper spires were hidden within swirling clouds. As the train drew near, Henri became visibly tense.
Attention, mes amis,
he said with urgency.
We are arriving at Thalarion. I advise you most strongly, do not disembark. No one returns from Thalarion.
Through the windows, strange figures, slimy, eel-like men in tattered robes, hauled bundles of wool onto the train.
What's producing all this wool?
Rose asked, squinting at the carloads.
The slugs, naturally,
Henri said flatly.
But how?
Asked Elijah, curious and disturbed.
I do not think you wish to know.
The group chuckled awkwardly, except Giovanni, who was still dreaming of his rolling cathedral.
What's the strangest thing you've traded?
Rose asked, trying to lighten the mood. Henry didn't blink.
The milk of centaurs.
Claudia nearly choked on her wine.
You can milk centaurs?
They are surprisingly willing.
Henri replied, utterly serious. As laughter faded into silence, Henri's expression turned grim. He peered out the window, eyes wide. A skeletal figure in tattered robes stood silently at the station, his eyes glowing faintly red.
No, no, no,
Henri muttered.
You have already been to the Gulf of Nodens. You cannot come back.
Claudia stepped toward the window.
Sir, Henri said you cannot board.
The creature hissed something. Latin, it sounded like. A curse, almost. Henri's eyes rolled white as the air crackled with invisible force. Giovanni stepped forward, lifting his crucifix.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
The creature began to burn, slowly, patches of withered flesh catching flame. Henri snapping out of the spell. Then the Bruja appeared beside Giovanni, smirking.
Well done, Father. Hate always burns brighter than love, my dear old friend.
She whispered to the flaming figure. With a snap of Henri's fingers, thick tentacles burst from the walls of the train and flung the burning corpse off the platform. The train got back in motion. Giovanni dropped to one knee, awestruck. To him it wasn't tentacles, it was the hand of God. Jura, the 1,000 pleasures, the 1,000 warnings. Somewhere beyond sense, the Dreamlands Express hurtled forward. Outside, the sky had disappeared, replaced by a shimmering void. A distortion where time and gravity seemed to stutter. The landscape flickered past like a film reel unspooling, faster than the eye could follow. Inside, the dining car was growing tense. Henri Peters, the ever-genteel conducteur, now wore his full mask, gilded with curling designs like caged suns, his voice slightly muffled, his posture increasingly nervous. He moved from window to window, slamming the shutters shut, muttering in a tone barely above a whisper.
Excusez-moi. Don't look outside then, please.
Claudia arched an eyebrow.
Is it that bad?
Henry didn't answer. He tightened the last curtain drawstring with shaking hands. In the lounge car, Elijah, half laughing, approached Henri, who was staring blankly into space as if listening to something far away.
Henri,
Elijah said gently.
what in God's name is going on?
The conducteur blinked.
Mais, monsieur, we are arriving at Jura, the land of the thousand pleasures.
That sounds delightful.
Elijah said, dry as bone. Henri gave a small, embarrassed chuckle.
It is deceitful. I would urge everyone to remain in their cabins. The air carries sensations, scents, things that can change you.
He leaned in.
It is a city of bodies, of passions without end. It is not meant for the sane.
Elijah stepped back.
Understood.
Leopold, already uneasy, took Henri's advice to heart. With a grim frown, he retreated to his cabin, bolting the door behind him. He sat on the bed in silence, the darkness outside the window pressing in like a living thing. He did not dare open the curtain. Elsewhere, Marco remained behind his own door too. Silent, waiting. In the corridor, Rose pulled Claudia aside.
You can't trust him.
She whispered.
Marco's not your brother anymore. You know it. He wants to merge, to take what's yours.
Claudia looked away.
I threw the dolls out.
Rose pressed on.
I know you want peace, but you don't owe him anything. You didn't kill him. He's the one who couldn't let go. If you want to talk to him, fine. But I won't follow you into that room.
She hesitated.
I'll stay with the priest, if that makes you feel better.
Claudia said nothing, her gloved fingers tightening slightly at her side. Back in the dining car, Henry was visibly unraveling. He hurriedly adjusted tablecloths, snuffed half-lit candles, and sealed every slit of window that remained. Elijah, ever the skeptic but never the fool, turned to Mackenzie, the bearded Scotsman, seated with a glass of dream wine.
You've passed this stretch before?
Mackenzie shuddered.
Oh, aye. Once. Never again.
What's out there?
A city made of flesh.
Mackenzie said, voice flat.
Wriggling, moaning, bodies upon bodies. They say it's pleasure, but it's all rot and heat. Saw it once in a window reflection. I couldn't eat for days.
Elijah nodded solemnly.
Fair enough.
Fancy a distraction?
Mackenzie asked. Elijah smiled.
Poker?
Karkaroff's voice rang out from behind.
Now that sounds like a plan.
Let's go to my room,
said Elijah. As the train pierced the veil of Jura, the very walls groaned. Somewhere, music played, too low, too intimate, like breath on your neck. But in Elijah's cabin, cards shuffled. The sound of laughter, tight and strained, cut through the dread. It wasn't heroism, it was survival. And for a moment, the investigators found refuge in the most human act of all. Distraction. Outside, the land of 1,000 pleasures writhed in the dark. But inside they held their ground. The ghouls' return. The Dreamlands Express continued its plunge through unknowable geography, past the grotesque allure of Jura, where pleasures warped into perversions and sensation became punishment. The train trembled as it cut through those lands, and the passengers clung to their realities, or what little remained of them. In his berth, Father Giovanni sat alone, sketchbook in hand. The priest's charcoal traced outlines with mechanical precision. Cathedrals, thorns, angels, and fire. The Dreamlands had cracked something inside him. Faith, he once thought, was the bulwark against the unknown. Now the unknown had shape, sound, smell, and it rode with him. He turned to a blank page, sketching something that looked like a hand of God. Except the fingers were too long, and they reached backward. Rose, restless and watchful, paced the lush corridors of the sleeping car. Her shoes tapped against the velvet carpet. Dream silk curtains swayed like breath. The train felt too alive. She paused by the berth of the Sarnathians, their door slightly ajar. She peeked inside. One of them, tall, bronze-skinned, with a mane of tightly braided hair, was seated cross-legged on a polished floor mat, polishing a sword. Its blade gleamed unnaturally, like moonlight caught in metal. He didn't look up. Rose didn't stay. She followed her unease down the hallway to the padded compartment where the beings of Ib kept to themselves. The scent here was thick, not rot, not quite, but pregnant with something old. Musk and damp stone and a hint of salt. The door creaked open. Inside, the squeaker blinked at her with bulbous, mournful eyes.
Yes?
It croaked. Rose straightened her spine.
Who are you?
I am the squeaker.
Right. Why that name?
The creature tilted its head.
It is the name given by God.
They spoke for a time, but the squeaker's answers were obtuse, looping back on themselves like dreams you forget mid-sentence. Despite her charm, Rose left no wiser than when she entered. Then came the announcement. Henri's voice, distorted and fraying, whispered through the brass megaphones in each car.
We are now arriving at Jura Station. I urge all passengers not to disembark. No exceptions. This stop is not safe. I repeat, do not disembark.
At the rear of the train, a gate slid open with a groan. Claudia, drawn by something, instinct or fate, moved toward it, her heels tapping softly on the floor. The wind from outside blew against her coat like a sigh. She reached the open door and saw him, a creature, crouched on all fours at the edge of the platform, its skin sagged like wet parchment, sloughing from bones that should not have moved. Its jaw unhinged slightly, eyes sunk deep in a skull that remembered too much. In one hand, a shredded Dreamlands ticket, barely intact.
Buy a ticket,
it rasped. Henri appeared beside her, stricken.
Monsieur, I'm sorry. That ticket is incomplete. How can you prove it's yours?
The creature's eyes locked on Claudia.
I remember you.
And Claudia did remember him. Guillaume, the ghoul from the Paris catacombs, the one who had whispered of Fenalik, the one who had fled. She stepped forward.
Henri, let him aboard.
Henri's face contorted behind his mask.
Claudia, I cannot. He's dead.
No,
She said.
he's endured.
The conductor hesitated, then slowly, reluctantly, nodded. Guillaume slithered forward, pulling himself onto the train with surprisingly little sound. He sat quietly near the rear, folding in on himself like an old memory.
I will not eat anyone,
He promised.
not this time. Fenalik,
He whispered.
Zrenia, on отбросил меня, used us as soil.
He said no more, but Claudia felt it in her bones. Fenalik had left scars on many. Even the dead. The blades before Sononile. The voice came through the Dreamlands Express, like a ghost wrapped in velvet.
We are currently approaching Sononil. Sononil, next station. The King of Dreams will board the train. The King of Here, of Dreams, will board the train.
Henri's voice was calm, but the air had changed, thickened somehow. Even the walls of the train seemed to shimmer, as if the very idea of time hesitated before what came next. In one of the rear corridors, Rose caught a glimpse of movement and turned. The Sarnathians, resplendent in glimmering silks and ceremonial armor, had emerged from their berth. The glint of steel shimmered at their hips. One by one, they armed themselves. No words, just intent. And they were walking, calmly, dangerously, toward the padded compartment that housed the beings of Ibe. Rose's breath caught. She turned and ran. In the forward cabin, Elijah sat with Karkaroff and Mackenzie, the three of them mid-conversation over dream-crafted bourbon. Rose burst in, breathless.
They're arming, now headed for the Ib compartment.
Karkaroff stood without a word. In an instant, the Russian dreamer conjured a massive claymore, the blade wreathed in ghost fire and history.
I have no problem defending myself,
he said. Beside him, Mackenzie flexed his hand, and a crossbow of carved bone and starlight materialized on his shoulder.
Absolutely not a problem.
They moved quickly, Rose leading them back through the corridor where the very floor seemed to pulse with anticipation. The scent of jasmine and metal filled the air. They arrived at the padded door just as the Sarnathians, 6 of them, blades bared, prepared to breach it. Too late. Karkaroff didn't speak. He acted. With a blur of motion, his claymore sang through the air, severing the neck of the lead Sarnathian in a single clean stroke. Blood, silver and steaming, splashed the carpet. The body fell with a thud. The others froze. A moment passed, heavy as stone. Then Karkaroff spoke.
This is an example of a preemptive strike, if you follow what I mean.
No one responded. One of the younger Sarnathians began to tremble, his sword slipping from suddenly shaking hands. They backed away, sullen, silent.
Not so pretty now, your friend,
Karkaroff said, nudging the corpse. Mackenzie stepped forward. With a crack of his fingers, a tentacle emerged from the train wall, glossy and silent.
Take it,
Mackenzie commanded. The Dreamlands Express obeyed. The tentacle coiled around the dead Sarnathian's body, and without ceremony, hurled it through a window into the nothing beyond.
I'm a diplomat,
Mackenzie said.
This is not how we handle these situations. You want justice? Wait for the king. If you ever draw steel like that again without his word,
His tone turned icy.
we will finish what he just started.
The Sarnathians retreated. The tentacle vanished, and the corridor was still again. The Judgment of Dreams. The Dreamlands Express slowed as it approached Sonanil, the city of joy. Through the windows, the world transformed. Palm trees lined sun-warmed marble boulevards, birdsong filtered through colonnades of ivory, and villas of white stone gleamed under an eternal golden sky. Fragrant breezes swept in as the train came to a halt beside a station sculpted entirely of rose-colored quartz. A plank of onyx extended from the station to the train with impossible smoothness, and soon upon it strode King Kuranes, the King of Dreams, the ruler of here. He was draped in heavy furs despite the gentle warmth, a simple circlet resting upon his brow, his beard immaculately trimmed. Behind him marched 10 knights, resplendent in mirror-bright mail and ceremonial weapons forged of dream silver and flame. To most, Kuranes was stately, mythic. To Giovanni, he was Jesus. The priest fell to his knees in silent reverence, sketchbook slipping from his hands. A banquet was arranged within the grand dining car. Silken cloths appeared on the tables as if summoned by thought. Platters of starlight oysters, cloud fruit, and wine that shimmered within a fire were placed before the dreamers and dignitaries. King Kuranes took his place at the head of the table and raised his hand.
Let it be done,
He said. Tonight would not only be a feast, it would be a trial. The first to speak was the squeaker, wobbling to the front with his strange wobbling gait.
We fell,
He said.
We fell from the stars into the lake, and when we asked for peace, we were met with slaughter. Our people were exterminated. It has taken 2,000 years to build what you see before you now, a mere fraction of our former glory.
His voice trembled with ancient sorrow.
We request 3 things. First, an apology in writing from the Sarnathian prince. Second, 10,000 rupees in recompense. Third, the return of the idol they stole from our drowned temple, our god, whom they defile yearly in celebration of our genocide.
The room was still. Then the Sarnathian delegation stepped forward. Their leader, voice sharp and prideful, made no gesture of regret.
We will not apologize. We owe them nothing. We want them gone. They are a disease that should never have returned to the lake. Their presence is blasphemy.
The king listened and said nothing. Then something moved. A tentacle, faintly humming with violet light, unfurled from the train's ceiling and reached to the king's shoulder. Where its tip split open, a mouth-like bloom whispered into his ear. No one could hear what it said. Kuranes' eyes remained distant for a long moment. Then he stood.
I find both claims wanting in virtue,
He said slowly.
but I find only one group guilty of annihilation.
He turned to the Sarnathians.
You will provide the apology. You will return the idol. You will pay the sum requested.
The Sarnathians stiffened. Their leader clenched his jaw but said nothing. He simply nodded once, curtly, and turned away. As one, they disembarked at Sonanil, silent and defeated. The train was quiet once more. Later that evening, as the sky outside bled into shades of black and sapphire, Henri entered the dining car once again. His mask was drawn, his voice soft.
Mes amis, we approach the Gulf of Nodens.
He looked at each of them in turn.
This is where the Dreamlands Express cannot go. This is the end of the line. Some of you may choose to disembark, to climb the stairs into the realm of Nodens. Know this, if you do, you cannot return. Not to the train, perhaps, not to yourselves.
If you remain aboard, we will continue, and I shall take you back toward the waking world. But the Gulf of Nodens is a place of endings. It is a place of reckoning.
He bowed, solemn.
Choose wisely.
The gulf and the falling sun. The Dreamlands Express no longer raced across landscapes. It floated now, gliding toward a place untouched by time or gods or dreams. Sona Nil was behind them. Ahead loomed the edge of the world. Henri moved like a man unraveling. His mask, once clean and ornate, now shimmered strangely, as if the very threads of the dream were coming loose.
Mes amis,
he announced through the brass megaphone,
we are nearing the Gulf of Nodens, the final station for those who wish to be free. Discard your fears. Let go of your burdens. There is no returning from what comes next.
The train passed into sunset, but it was not like any sun the dreamers knew. The golden disk slipped beneath the horizon and kept falling into a pit of blackness, an abyss that rose in turn. From it came smoke that coiled like thought made flesh, sliding through every crevice of the train. It entered the dining car, filling lungs, minds, dreams. Passengers gathered, each clutching the object that represented the weight they wished to cast away. Giovanni held a crucifix, fingers trembling. Claudia, resolute, carried the severed head of Howard, her guilt from Antarctica cast in perfect form. Elijah, silent, held a delicate porcelain mask, thin as breath, molded from his memory of mustard gas. Leopold had nothing.
I won't forget,
he said.
Not even the worst.
Guillaume the Ghoul cradled a statue of himself, gnarled and hunched, his identity worn like a wound. And Marco emerged at last. He dreamt a statue of Claudia, pale and serene. A sister remembered, or desired. They stood in a circle, and Marco stepped forward.
I envy you, sweet sister,
he said, voice low but sharp.
You get to breathe, to feel. I've been trapped in this cesspool of dreams for a lifetime.
Claudia's eyes were glass.
I thought we were going home together.
I don't want to be a memory. I want a body. I want you.
The others stepped forward, but the air cracked like thunder. King Kuranes entered, flanked by his knights.
This is not your time, little creature,
he said. He raised one finger. Marco's form shrank, distorted, his limbs folding inward, face twisting in anguish and betrayal. And then, glass. He was sealed in a jar.
Fret not,
Kuranes said to Claudia.
I shall not destroy him. Not entirely.
The doors of the train opened, a plank extended into nothing. Above them, starlight. Below, only the void. Passengers approached in silence. One by one, they cast their fears away. Claudia dropped Howard's head into the black. Her guilt, gone. Elijah let the porcelain mask fall, shattering mid-air, his terror of gas silenced. Karkaroff released a crated echo of the war, bombs and screaming within. Mackenzie let go of his briefcase and the words he wished he hadn't written. Even Juza, the dancer, stepped forward, holding a carved figure of herself mid-pirouette.
I suppose I don't dance for anyone anymore.
She let it go. Then came Rose. She turned toward the plank and saw a hand reaching up. Her mother's face followed, sallow, trembling.
I'm so sorry,
she whispered.
We bargained with the skinless one. It was the only way to save you. You want to free us? Return to Serbia? That's where it ends?
And her form was dragged back into the dark.
Remember Serbia?
Finally, Madame Bruja approached the plank. Her smile was ancient. She reached into her chest. Click, click, click. bones shattering as she pulled free a burning heart, red and radiant as a ruby. She turned to Giovanni.
I think this might help you.
She pressed the heart into his palm.
Hate,
she whispered,
is always stronger than love.
And then she walked into the void, laughing softly as she went. The wind howled. The doors closed. Henri, quiet now, moved through the cabin. His hands shook as he collected the last of the totems. Then he turned to the group.
We are leaving the Dreamlands, mes amis. I will take you back to the waking world. I hope you found what you needed.
And then, the Dreamlands dissolved. They awoke aboard the Orient Express, rocking gently on the tracks somewhere between Paris and Lausanne. Morning light filtered in through the windows. The simulacrum was still with them, but the burdens they'd carried for so long were gone. Breakfast after dreams. Giovanni awoke in a golden shaft of morning light, the gentle sway of the train, a rhythmic balm after the surreal chaos of the Dreamlands. For a moment he thought he was still dreaming. Then,
gut punch!
Something small and solid slammed into his stomach. The breath left him in a confused grunt as a young boy, no older than 7 and dressed in a velvet suit, charged out of the berth, giggling manically as he dashed down the corridor. Giovanni wheezed, clutching his ribs.
Come back here, you little tyke!
Someone shouted down the hall. The priest groaned.
I liked the burning skeletons better,
he muttered. The others awoke in turn, each from a heavy, dreamless sleep. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, they felt rested, as if the Dreamlands had taken something and given something else in return. Outside, snow-blanketed fields rolled past the windows, bathed in morning light. France was waking. The real world had returned, but it felt thinner, as though dreams had peeled back part of the veil. A soft bell rang overhead. Breakfast is served in the dining car. The dining car was opulence incarnate. All polished mahogany, gilded sconces and crystal chandeliers swaying slightly with the train's motion. The scent of fresh brewed coffee and warm croissants mingled with fine tobacco and delicate perfumes. There were other passengers now, new faces, strange energies. A young boy, pouting dramatically in a crisp 3-piece suit, sighed as he searched for his manservant. A sallow-eyed man hunched behind a newspaper, the red rims of his eyes betraying a night spent weeping. A woman in a crimson silk robe, statuesque and impossibly poised, watched the newcomers with feline interest. A twitchy man clutched a briefcase and muttered nervously about business in Bulgaria. A gaunt man with Eastern features smirked across the aisle, exchanging silent barbs with no one in particular. The staff bustled quietly, their whispers painting a background of low gossip and half-suppressed excitement. Elijah, ever curious, made his way to the man with the briefcase.
Franklin Meyer,
the man said, adjusting his glasses. His voice was clipped, nervous.
Just business. Bulgaria, then Constantinople. Silk import negotiations. I'm not a tourist.
Elijah nodded, the rhythm of a lie all too easy to hear. Across the room, the woman in crimson had locked eyes with Claudia. She stood with a smile, walked over and sat down with a grace that whispered of courts and catwalks.
Claudia,
she purred.
The famed explorer and occultist, and Leopold Lambert, is it? The son of the famous Belgian antiquarian?
Claudia raised an eyebrow.
Andrea,
the woman said, offering a perfectly manicured hand.
Wouldn't you like to escape this ghastly normalcy and join me somewhere a bit more scandalous?
She leaned in, the scent of rosewater and ambition trailing her words.
Just a bit of fun.
Claudia laughed lightly, deflecting.
It's barely 9:15. Breakfast is hardly the time for seduction, my dear.
Andrea's hand lingered on Claudia's, warm, soft, and somehow too familiar.
Come now, darling. This train is nothing but temptation gilded in etiquette. We only live once, don't we?
Claudia resisted with a crisp smile. Andrea didn't miss a beat. She twirled on her heel and approached Leopold next, offering the same sultry line. He rebuked her firmly, not even rising from his seat. She huffed and drifted toward a new mark. A beautiful Russian woman seated further down the car. The young aristocratic boy stood suddenly, offended that his manservant had not yet arrived. "Unacceptable," he muttered, storming off. The dining car slowly thinned. Passengers wandered off to the salon or their berths, but one woman remained. Seated alone, she glanced around the room with anxious eyes, searching, waiting. The boy in the crate. The breakfast car was humming with quiet tension when the woman in grey put her teacup down a little too hard. The crystal trembled, nearly cracked.
That child.
She muttered through clenched teeth.
Always playing tricks. Always making a scene.
She rose, scanned the room, then flagged down a steward.
Have you seen my son? Simon? Yay high, curly hair, drew something on the wall yesterday. You scolded him, I think?
The steward hesitated.
He was running about last night. Yes, haven't seen him since. I'm sorry, madame.
The woman closed her eyes, exhaling slowly.
He's just so unmanageable.
Giovanni had been watching, his chair scraped back softly.
Let me help.
Rose joined him immediately.
We should help her. She's alone. Something's off.
Around the table, hands rose. One by one, most of the investigators volunteered to join the search. Elijah and Claudia headed toward the luggage compartment, searching for anything suspicious. Amid the trunks and steamer cases, they found it. A large crate, nailed shut, wrapped in canvas and chained with a massive lock. Elijah and Claudia headed toward the luggage compartment, searching for anything suspicious. Amid the trunks and steamer cases, they found it. A large crate, nailed shut, wrapped in canvas and chained with a massive lock. Its label read, "Return to Paris, drop at Lausanne." As they leaned in, Elijah's ear caught the faintest sound from within. Breathing, no, snoring. Elsewhere, Giovanni, Claudia, and Leopold investigated the mother's berth. The boy's clothes were all there, neatly folded, except for his pajamas. In the salon, tucked between the cushions and half-spilled milk, they found something else, a bottle of laudanum. Someone had tried to send themselves into dreamless sleep. The staff confirmed a strange detail. 2 boys had been seen running the corridors late at night, both in pajamas. One may have been a ghost, they joked. But the investigators remembered now. Simon had spoken to them once, back in Calais. He had spoken of ghosts, of dreams. He had alienated the aristocratic boy and isolated himself. And now he was gone. If he was a dreamer, perhaps he'd slipped too far. They made a bold decision. Rose and Leopold would attempt to return to the Dreamlands. Claudia prepared the ritual in hushed tones, drawing the symbol in chalk and setting the scene with ritual clarity. The laudanum was offered. Rose drank. Leopold pretended. Giovanni watched silently, catching Leopold's feigned stupor, but said nothing. For Rose, the descent was immediate. She fell into blackness, weightless and cold, a whispering space, and there, floating, pale, Simon. His eyes fluttered.
Too sleepy to move,
He said.
I got lost. I didn't mean to. Can you bring me back?
Rose reached for him, but awoke. The train was already slowing. Lausanne. Time was running out.
He's in the crate,
Rose gasped. The group rushed to the luggage car. Elijah, still questioning a strangely upbeat Russian passenger, found no answers, only disjointed talk of geopolitics and the Treaty of Lausanne.
Fascinating time,
the Russian said, sipping tea.
Ottoman Empire, crumbling, so many borders redrawn. Perfect place for disappearances.
On the platform, the mother stood, numb.
I'll stay the night, return on the next train. If he turns up...
Her voice was tight, controlled, just shy of breaking. Then Claudia's voice called out,
There! The crate!
A burly porter was enlisted to help. Far from the gathering crowd, they pried the lid open, slowly. Inside, curled like a kitten beneath a wool coat, Simon slept. The mother dropped to her knees, sobbing. Simon stirred.
Mama?
She crushed him to her chest. They left on the next eastbound train, mother and son reunited. But the investigators stayed behind. Lausanne awaited. And with it, the final trace of a man named Edgar Wellington. The next breadcrumb toward the Sedefkar simulacrum.